The moment her boss looked at me with a smirk and asked, "And this man is?" I knew something was about to go terribly wrong, but none of them expected what would happen just minutes later. The ballroom of the hotel shimmered with warm golden lights, soft music drifting through the air as hundreds of well-dressed employees mingled around polished tables. It was my wife's company's biggest annual event, a celebration of promotions, achievements, and partnerships. Everyone looked confident, powerful, and proud to be there, except me. I stood near the edge of the room in a simple dark suit that suddenly felt far too ordinary among the designer tuxedos and expensive watches. My wife had insisted I come tonight. She said it meant a lot to her. Still, I could feel the quiet glances, the silent judgment. My wife, Hannah, had worked for the company for 6 years. She had started at the very bottom, working long hours, skipping vacations, and sacrificing weekends just to prove herself. I had watched her fall asleep at the kitchen table more times than I could count, laptop still glowing in the dark while she fought to meet impossible deadlines. And tonight was supposed to be special. But the moment her boss approached us, the atmosphere shifted. If you believe in kindness, humility, and second chances, take a moment to like this video, comment where you're watching from, share this story with someone who needs inspiration, and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this remind us that respect is something everyone deserves. The man walking toward us was tall, sharp, and carried himself with the kind of arrogance that often comes with too much power. His name was Victor Barnes, the regional director of Hannah's department. People whispered about him constantly. Some admired him. Others feared him. But almost everyone agreed on one thing. Victor loved humiliating people in public. He stopped in front of us, swirling the drink in his glass slowly as he examined me from head to toe. Not the way someone greets a guest. More like the way someone inspects something they don't think belongs. Hannah tried to smile politely, introducing me as her husband. But Victor didn't seem interested in listening. Instead, he tilted his head slightly and said the words that would change the entire night. "And this man is?" The question hung in the air longer than it should have. People nearby stopped talking. A few employees turned toward us quietly, sensing something uncomfortable unfolding. Hannah's face flushed with embarrassment. I could see it instantly, that familiar tension she carried whenever her boss was around. It was the same look she had after difficult meetings, the same quiet frustration she tried to hide whenever she told me stories about how Victor treated his employees. She opened her mouth to answer again. But Victor cut her off with a dismissive laugh. He made a joke about spouses attending events they didn't belong at. Something about company standards and representing the brand properly. A few awkward chuckles followed from people who clearly didn't want to laugh but felt they had to. Hannah stood there frozen. Her confidence, the same confidence that helped her survive years in that company, suddenly cracked in front of everyone. And in that moment, I realized something important. This wasn't just about me, this was about control. Victor wasn't trying to embarrass me. He was trying to remind Hannah of her place. I could see it in the way she lowered her eyes, the way she held her breath, the way her shoulders slowly sank under the weight of public humiliation. But what Victor didn't know was that this wasn't the first time someone underestimated me. Years earlier, before Hannah even started working there, I had built a small technology consulting company with 2 college friends. What began as a struggling startup slowly grew into something bigger than we ever expected. After almost a decade of long nights, failed projects, near bankruptcies, and countless lessons, we finally succeeded. 2 years ago, our company partnered with several large corporations across the country. One of those corporations, the very company hosting this event tonight, but I had never mentioned it to Hannah, not because I didn't trust her, but because I never wanted my success to affect how people treated her. She had earned her position through hard work, and I wanted her to keep that pride. Unfortunately, Victor had just made a very unfortunate mistake. Because earlier that week, my company had completed a major internal audit request for their corporate headquarters. Part of that audit involved reviewing internal security footage after several complaints were filed anonymously by employees. Complaints about harassment, bullying, and abuse of authority. Complaints about Victor Barnes. What no one in that ballroom knew yet was that corporate HR had already been investigating him. And tonight, they had decided to make an announcement. Just minutes after Victor walked away laughing with a few executives, the lights dimmed slightly and a representative from corporate HR stepped onto the stage. At first, the room assumed it was part of the evening's awards presentation, but the atmosphere changed quickly when the large screen behind the stage flickered to life. The video that appeared wasn't a slideshow. It was security footage. The first clip showed Victor in a meeting room weeks earlier, mocking a junior employee who had asked for time off after a family emergency. The next clip showed him loudly belittling another staff member during a conference call. Then another, and another. Each clip showed the same pattern: arrogance, intimidation, and humiliation. Whispers spread across the ballroom like wildfire. People began looking around nervously. Some of the executives standing near Victor slowly stepped away from him. Hannah looked up at the screen in disbelief. Her hand slowly found mine. I could feel it shaking. The HR representative calmly explained that the company had received multiple reports of workplace misconduct and had completed a formal investigation. The footage being shown was only a small portion of the evidence. Then came the final clip, the one recorded just minutes earlier. Victor standing in front of Hannah and me, his voice clearly captured asking the same question again. "And this man is?" The room went completely silent. You could hear glasses gently clinking against tables as people slowly processed what they had just witnessed. Victor's confident expression vanished. For the first time that night, he looked uncertain. The HR representative finished speaking calmly, announcing that Victor Barnes was being immediately terminated for violations of company conduct policies. Security quietly approached him. No shouting, no dramatic confrontation, just a quiet walk out of the ballroom while hundreds of employees watched in stunned silence. Hannah looked at me with wide eyes, tears forming as the tension of the entire moment finally released. She had spent years believing that standing up to someone like Victor would cost her career, but the truth had finally spoken for itself. And sometimes, justice arrives when you least expect it. Before the evening ended, the HR team privately thanked several employees who had come forward with their stories. Hannah was one of them. She had submitted a complaint months earlier but assumed it would disappear into corporate bureaucracy like so many others. Instead, it helped build the case that finally ended Victor's career. When we stepped outside the hotel later that night, the cool air felt different, lighter. Hannah looked up at the city lights reflecting across the street and let out a quiet breath she had been holding for years. For the first time since she started working there, she felt free. Free from fear, free from humiliation, free from the quiet weight of someone else's power. Sometimes the people who try the hardest to make others feel small are simply afraid of being exposed. And when the truth finally comes to light, it doesn't need to shout. It only needs to be seen. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like the video, share it with someone who believes in standing up for what's right, and subscribe to the channel for more powerful stories like this. And before we end the story, I have one special request for you. Comment the word respect below if you believe that every person deserves dignity, no matter their job, their status, or their background. Because sometimes the strongest victories don't come from revenge, they come from truth, and from the quiet courage of people who refuse to stay silent. Thank you for watching,